morning, everybody. I will officially call this meeting to order. At this point, I guess, Ann, would you feel comfortable doing the roll call?
Absolutely. Right. Chief Solberg, absent. Vice Chair Volkmer.
Present on Google Meets.
Joe Brocious. Sheriff Joseph Dedman.
Here.
Director Eric Jorgensen.
Hi, Trask here for Eric.
Hi, Susan. Colonel Jeffrey Glover.
Major Damon Cecil for Colonel Glover.
Got it. Rachel Mitchell. Sheriff Paul Penzone. Chief Alanis.
Here, present.
Robert Smith.
Here.
Brian Wright. And I think we have Brian.
I'm here.
Okay, and Brad Connolly.
I'm here.
Right. We are all set. And looks like Leslie Lemens just joined. Hi, Leslie. All right. We're all set.
Do we have a quorum?
Yes.
Thank you. So moving to the AATA Board Chairman's report. At this point, I do not have any particular information to provide. I know Chief Solberg experienced a tragedy in his family. I know that he had planned on being here. He was unable to attend, so I'm pinch hitting for him. I'll do my very best. So with that information and no formal report, that brings us to the approval of the June 16th draft board meeting minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to review those minutes?
Yes.
All right. Hearing nothing, or hearing at least one affirmation, at this time, I would certainly consider a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve. Motion to approve the June 16th, 2023 draft board meeting minutes.
Okay, looks like we have a motion from Mr. Smith. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It looks like Brad Connolly. It looks like Brad Connolly seconded.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will move to call the vote. All those in favor, please indicate by voting aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sorry. Any opposed? Indicate by saying nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. We will move on to agenda item number 3, the AATA Director's Report. Mr. McGuffin, the floor is yours.
Mr. Vice Chairman, members, good morning. I do have a few items for you this morning. First off, I'd like to welcome Major Damon Cecil as the new board member representative from DPS, replacing Major Mercer. So welcome, Major Cecil. Happy to have you on board. Wanted to report that the fiscal year 24 grants, as well as the end of the year grants that were approved at the last meeting, have all been paid. So matter of fact, second quarter payments are coming up here within just a couple of weeks. So all of those grants are out to the respective grantees. This is the time of year where we do budget requests, and I just wanted to inform the board that I have written and submitted 2 budget requests this year for fiscal year 25. The first is $122,000 for the Maricopa County Attorney's Office to fully fund existing personnel that are currently on the grant, and to add an additional paralegal to assist with their work volume. The second one is the same one that that didn't make it across the finish line last year, which is adding $50,000 to the local grants. And this is the idea behind this one, was that we generally have around $27,000 at the end of the year, and we put those out to local grants, or to local agencies, and they use those funds for things like flock cameras, stop sticks, trackers, promotional equipment, things like that, or materials. And we think that we could do a little bit better as far as encouraging more agencies to put in if we had more money. So we added $50,000 to that pot as a request. Both of those issues have been approved through DIFI. because there's as we know, there's a step process to get these things done. DIFI met with OSPB, and it looks like they have taken them. They did not reject them. So everything is in the right place right now. The main thing, as always, is that these requests appear in the executive budget that will be released in January. So that's when you really know if you have a chance or not. So right now, everything looks good, but we'll have to wait till January to see if it continues along that path. I wanted to mention that the AATA conference was last week. Both Amanda and I attended. It was in Honolulu this year, which is part of the Western region. We also saw a board member, Joe Brocious, who made the trip over. He was in attendance. And, you know, as I mentioned, this is a Western region conference, and the Western region president is actually part of our task force here. So ATA took this opportunity to be a sponsor of this event, which is something we haven't done a lot since COVID. A lot of these training opportunities haven't been as prevalent as they once were. So being that this one was kind of in our backyard and what Arizona is part of as far as being the Western region, we sponsored it along with Colorado, which was another state sponsor. So a lot of good classes that we attended, and took a few things away from that, made some good contacts. So it was certainly worth the trip. And then kind of speaking kind of along that same vein, which is some training, we are working currently on a multi-state regional meeting, which is coming up mid-November, and it's in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The 4 states involved are Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas. And the idea behind this is something we did a couple years ago with 3 states where we met in Durango. And each state kind of presents what's going on in their state, and it gives us an opportunity to hear things that maybe we're doing better than other states, things where, you know, they're maybe doing some things differently and possibly better than what we are. So a lot of opportunity to gain some knowledge and gain some best practices, if you will. So at this point, I'm going to present on the ATPA, kind of what's going on in Arizona. The task force, Captain Axland, is going to give a presentation on what he has going here with the task force. Amanda's going to present on outreach. Frank and Mary Gordon, the analyst, are going to present on the implementation of the ACT database in Arizona, some of the challenges and successes that we've had. And that we think is going to be really useful for states that don't have ACT, that might be looking to bring it on. So, and then additionally, vertical prosecution presentation is going to happen with Frank Woods has volunteered to present that over there. And I think Arizona is certainly a leader in vertical prosecution, especially among the states that are showing up. So I think that's going to be a really good opportunity for other states to learn some best practices as well. The next item, the newsletter initiative that I spoke of last meeting. Hopefully each of you were on our list and received that newsletter. We sent that in July. We sent over 9,000 emails out with that information, and 8,523 were actually delivered. So we think it's a really good opportunity to be talking about current things that are occurring in auto theft, and just keep auto theft, you know, at the front of everybody's mind. So we're hoping to put out another one within the next week, because we're going to do it on a quarterly basis. That new one is going to feature vertical prosecution, where we explain the program and just talk about some of the benefits. And then we'll also have some, you know, current information that we think readers will find interesting, as far as, you know, last time it was about Kia, Hyundai, and just some of those, anything that's topical, we're going to include in there. The next item that I have is not an action item at this point in the agenda, and but it's regarding the analyst salary and ERE proposal. So just as a bit of history, I think everybody is aware that Mary Gordon is the analyst for DiFi, and she works primarily for the fraud unit within the bigger organization. But she also works about 25% of her time for the ATA. And over the last, I don't know, since she's been here, year and a half or so, she has proven to be extremely helpful. Certainly the knowledge leader when it comes to the ACT database. She puts together monthly reports for us. She does research projects regarding auto theft. And so it's been a great partnership between DiFi proper and the ATA, because we don't have to employ a full-time analyst. We can share those services. But at this point, we think it's only fair that for the 25% of the time that she works for us, that her salary and ERE come out of the proportioned 25% come out of ATA funds. So that is about, I don't have the exact figure, but it's around $20,000 a year. And we would like to, since this meeting is kind of late, that we would like to make that retroactive to July 1st. So we've had like a full year where there's been no cost to ATA. I did speak with Chief Solberg on this and asked him if he wanted this to be an action item from me. And he said that his preference would be that the action item would simply be the board's approval of the expenditure plan during Frank's. So I'm certainly willing, would have any discussion regarding this right now, because again, we won't be necessarily taking any action on it right now. But so before I move on, I'm happy to answer any questions or speak to any concerns that anyone might have. Okay. Then I'm not sure exactly how much more discussion Frank will have on it, but it will appear in that segment. So with that, then the last thing I would like to do is once again share just a short presentation, just to talk about a couple things here. Okay, it looks like everybody can see that. Kind of, first and foremost, once again, Kia Hyundai is really the biggest thing going on in the theft world here. We keep waiting for this to get better, to plateau, and then hopefully start declining, but we are not seeing that yet. So in August, which is the last full month that we have data for, 438 Kia Hyundai thefts. So we combine them together because the issue, of course, is the same as far as why they're easy to steal. And we're showing you here like 16 months on this chart, starting in May of 2022. And if you can see, the total theft numbers for both of those models or makes are around 100, and now we're up over 400, which obviously is a quadrupling. So there's our fixes in place as far as getting the software enhancements and things like that, but there's about 8 million vehicles in the nation that need to be retrofitted with that. So I think it's just going to take a long time. And right now, we're definitely seeing some of the problems associated with that. I believe Captain Axland is going to speak to this issue as well. So next one is the number, where they rank in in our top 10. And as you can see, back in May of 2022, on the left side of the screen, they're kind of hovering around 9 and 10, and then you see that ascent all the way to the point now where Kias are number 1 finally knocking off Silverado as the number one vehicle that is stolen. It's Silverado's been a mainstay at number one for seems like years now, but it has been replaced by Kia and Hyundai now. And this one just kind of shows you kind of the total theft picture. That 29,307. You know, as everybody probably knows, our annual theft total hovers around 20,000 here lately. So the 29 represents a longer time period. That is not just a year, but it just kind of shows you keeping consistent with what we've been showing you in the previous graphs. So out of those 29,000 vehicles stolen, 3,600 of them, or 12%, have been a combination of Kia Hyundai. And then the top 10 most stolen, you can see on the left hand of the screen. I'll explain the no value. So the no values happen when law enforcement agencies enter information into ACIC and don't put something in for the model, and it comes through anyway. It hits the system and it will register as a no value. So we would expect there's a combination of vehicles in no value. There's going to be a lot of probably, you know, potentially Hyundais and Kias and other ones. I'm not sure it would really affect the list. So we really think that the Hyundai Elantra is still the number one vehicle stolen in Arizona. As you can see, 4 of the top 9 are either Hyundais or Kias. That is the Soul, the Sonata, and the Kia Rio at number 8. So still just a lot of bad things happening with those vehicles. And then I'll end the presentation with maybe a little bit of good news, though. So as you know, ACT database began populating in May of 2022. So we don't have full year of 2022 data. We have May forward, and we have everything in 2023. As we, you know, move forward in these months, we're going to have the opportunity to really look and see where are we this year as compared to, you know, last year. And we can do that with 4 months because we have data from May of 2022 forward, and then we have data from May of 2023 forward, which gives us a comparison. So interestingly enough, with all the stuff going wrong with Kia Hyundai, we're actually showing through ACT that we are a 10% reduction for these 4 months. Is this going to be reflective of the entire year? I'm not sure, but it's certainly in the right place. We are expecting some national totals to come out from NICB for 2022. So, you know, things have been really different in the fact that we're not getting the UCR report anymore. NIBRS isn't really effective in the States. So we have a lot of problems as far as this. So NICB is basically where we're going to be going for our totals until we can really get ACT fully populated for the calendar year. So all of that's coming. But anyway, this is good news, and we'll hope that it's going to be reflective of the entire year. So with that, Mr. Vice Chairman, I'm would take any questions that anybody from the board might have.
So, Director, I have a quick question. I'll kick things off. One of the, I guess, pronounced data trends that we've seen in our community in Pinal County as a whole is that a number of our crime, the uptick in crimes, are being attributed to those 22 and younger, including juveniles. I give you that fact to say, have we looked at those Kias and those Hyundais to see, because I know the trend was on TikTok. Are we seeing on the cases we charge, are the defendants or the assailants or the people stealing the vehicle, do they tend to be kids? Do we know? And we may not have the data. I'm just curious.
Yeah, Mr. Vice Chairman, members, I think that this question, I can answer part of it, but then I'm going to defer to Captain Axland. He and I just talked about this the other day. So when I presented to NICB in May. When I was doing my research on that, the task force was telling me at that point that they were seeing less juvenile offenders. But as Captain Axel and I talked about that a week or two ago, I think he's going to tell you that they are seeing more juvenile offenders specifically with those type of vehicles. So I will defer to him, but I think you're right. I think that is kind of what the trend is now, specifically with Kias and Hyundais.
And just a quick comment, then I'll turn it over to the group. Director Amanda, Mr. Brocious, I really appreciate you guys being self-sacrificial and being willing to go to Honolulu on behalf of the team. We truly appreciate that. I'm just going to expect the same sacrificial mantra when it's held in Wiki Up in the next year or two. So that's all I'm throwing out there.
Well, keep in mind, sir, we are going to Albuquerque, right? So it's both ends of the spectrum there. So.
In all seriousness, are there any other questions for the director or comments from the group? Okay, hearing none, Director, thank you. As always, tremendous job. We appreciate the information. You do a great job of summarizing it. I personally love the stats and the data. Those presentations are right up my alley. So please continue to keep up that great work. Moving on to the next agenda item, we have number 4, which is our financial update. Frank, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board. Good morning. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with all of you. Okay, at the beginning of September, the fund balance for the ATA was $11 million, a little over $11 million. So far this year, we have brought in $3,678,000 in the first assessment, and I apologize, that should be 23A. Compared that to the last assessment, we are up almost 1%, and if you compare 23A to 22A, it's a little over a 1.5% increase in assessment dollars. Our investment income is about $33,000, bringing us so far a total of $3,712,000 so far this budget year. ACT support. We actually paid our first payment of $23,750 to Planet Technology, who helped build the ACT database. We still have available $126,000 in the expenditure plan. You'll see when the next payment's going to be, and we'll have extra money left over to help with some other projects that we need to have done to help support ACT with DPS. So hopefully we'll be able to get that done this budget year. It's all depending on the vendor that DPS uses, if they're able to get it in. So I'll talk about that a little bit when we get to the expenditure plan. Our operating budget, we spent a little over $48,000 so far this year. We still have $649,000 remaining, and I'll show you how we're going to kind of spend that throughout the year. Grants. We have spent $1,381,000. We still have $4,528,000 still remaining. I will talk about this in the expenditure plan because it should have been a little bit higher, but because of some contracts not being able to get back to us until late September, that's why the number isn't fully the full amount for the first quarter. So I'll explain that a little bit further. SIMS fund, we still have $1,432 in our SIMS fund. We're looking for ways to spend it, but we have to follow the guidelines that have been set forth. Any questions about this slide here before I go over to the expenditure plan? All right. Not hearing any. I am going to switch screens. I guess tabs would be more like it. Okay, there it is. All right, give it a second to pull up. All right. Director McGuffin made a comment about the 25% of Ms. Gordon's salary being added to the Auto Theft Authority's payroll. Those numbers are figured in here, in the very top row. So we will not have any issues taking care of that expense moving forward, not at all. The other green out-of-state travel, not sure how much, Hawaii is expensive. So I had to kind of do some real quick figuring on how much money Director McGuffin and Amanda probably could have spent in Hawaii. So these are rough numbers, and then we're not sure how much we're going to spend when we go to New Mexico. So these are just ballpark numbers right now on our travel expenditure for this upcoming year. What I meant is what I was saying earlier about the grants. We didn't have all the grant contracts in the first quarter until late September. So there's still going to be a charge of $89,000 for one of our grantees. So we're all caught up for first quarter, and we're planning to do second quarter the very first week of October. And the reason for that is that the new accounting and software system for the state is getting an upgrade. And we want to make sure everything is done before that upgrade is complete, because we don't know what possible hiccups we could have. We don't want any of our grantees to have to wait for payment. So this is our expenditure plan. As you can see down here, we have DPS receiving approximately $200,000 in January. There's $165,000 in June. That's between DPS and any other projects that Director McGuffin and I discuss as the year goes on. We just put it down there in that category. But everything else is just standard and hasn't really changed very much. Any questions about my expenditure plan? All right, not having any questions, I would ask for a motion to approve the expenditure plan.
Motion to approve FY24 spending plan as presented.
I'll second.
This is Major Damon Cecil. I second.
Okay, we have a second from Susan.
I guess I'll call the question. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, sounds unanimous.
All right, well, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the board, that concludes my presentation today for the board.
Thank you, Frank. Moving on, looks like we're at agenda item 5. Ann, you want to give us an update?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, members. As Jamie mentioned earlier, all the fiscal year 24 grants have been paid. They're all under contract and have been paid. Thanks to Frank for helping with that. Our fiscal year 24 grant contract compliance reviews have begun, and we'll present our next round of CCR reviews at the November meeting. So currently, we're working with Maricopa and Mojave counties. So we'll have that information for the November 17th board meeting. Before I turn it over to Amanda to kind of highlight some of the campaigns, public awareness campaigns that we've been doing, I wanted to echo what Director McGovern said about the Western States Auto Theft Prevention meeting. And I also wanted to thank Leslie Lemens and Frank Woods for being receptive to providing a presentation and attending Albuquerque with staff. So with that, I will turn it over to Amanda, who will present some of our campaigns.
Good morning. One moment here while I pull up our campaign. All right. So July is National Auto Theft Prevention Month. Historically, what we normally did was we partnered with AATA on an international basis. Unfortunately, this year that didn't happen. But what we did was we took this opportunity to rehash some of our best campaigns and our most viewed campaigns that we had. So a couple of these are a few years old, but they still were really relevant, and we had a really good time with them. For July, one of the other things we wanted to go ahead and remind is that pets and kids in cars are not only just for a security hazard for them, but also for auto theft prevention. We all hate seeing those stories where the car gets stolen and the pet or the child has been taken with the car. And then also, again, occasionally we get the discouraging that we don't want people to make those false claims and reports for those. For August was a big number for us. That's when we, towards the end of July, we released our newsletter. We went ahead and followed that up with the information and statistics for our Kia boys and the different various trends that we were currently seeing at that time. We'll be rerunning most likely another campaign where we've upped those numbers with the current standings on there. For September, we've focused again on our vertical prosecution program. It's a program that we're very proud of. It is something that Arizona does really well, and we wanted to go ahead and highlight those successes and those milestones with the information that we do, as well as bring attention to just some of the various different things that we do here in Arizona. One of the biggest things we have for engagement, if you work or are aware of social media at all, having people become your advocate in your marketing funnel is quite the challenge, especially for a group like us who's so single focused on auto theft prevention and the different things that we do for Arizona. Recently, as of Monday this week, Goodyear PD released out a video, great video of door checkers being stopped by locked doors. But more importantly, as you can see, Cat Fan went ahead and highlighted us and tagged us. And Goodyear PD. They went ahead and reminded everybody exactly what we do, 9 p.m. routine, and that we are the folks that went ahead and do that. You can't buy press like that. It's really just an attribution to all the work that we've put in over the years that really hone in that people need to lock their doors. Not only did these thieves get stopped, but we now know that our fan base and the information we put out is being paid attention to enough that people are willing to go ahead and recommend us to us and tag us into other local law enforcement. So that was a great success for us. Last but not least, in the upcoming months, you'll see a change. Our azwatchyourcar.com still links to our specific portion on the DIFI website. Most recently, as of July, we went ahead and added a dashboard. So if you notice on the graphic here, looks a little bit like a car, and it goes over the current statistics that we are now able to prove with the ACT database. So it highlights a little bit of those things, and of course, a little bit fun. We made it look a little bit like a car and information on there and things that we want to highlight. So we'll be updating right now. The plan is to update these on a quarterly. So again, right with our newsletter, we'll be going ahead and updating this graphic for a little bit feel. And eventually, with the website, azwatchyourcar.com, we'll go ahead and land on this particular graphic. On to AATA. So a big portion we haven't really necessarily talked about is that a good portion of my time as being a participant in AATA and the Western Regional Conferences, Jamie is so gracious as to dedicate some of my time to allow me to assist AATA in their promotion of not just in general their information and campaigns, but also with some of their promotion for the AATA conference. So these are some of the flyers that were produced right here out of this office. In addition to that, I had the honor of having my submission for the logo accepted for the conference. So these are all things that really tie in Arizona into AATA and the different campaigns that we did. So it was a very successful venture for us. In addition to that, being that we are a member of the Western region portion of AATA, I also had the privilege of designing their new banner that they displayed and will be displaying at all of their meetings. I took a picture of our one as a sponsor of this one. We brought home some little hardware, a nice little coin with a logo, as well as a nice little thank you award. Joe Brocious with Bert, who is also on our task force, but also a member of DIFI. And then, of course, it wouldn't be appropriate without having a picture of at least Jamie and I, showing just how much we suffered. With that said, we did such a good job with our promotion for the 71st conference that we've been asked. I was asked to design a logo for the 72nd one, which will be in Orlando. The WikiUp was a really close runner-up. We did make the save the date flyer, which they wanted to go ahead and get a more mythical theme, being that we are in Orlando. And then, of course, incorporating all of those information. So as you can see, the dates will be out in August. Again, this is open to anybody, the board as well as us, and we'll go from there. And that concludes my report.
Thanks, Amanda. And that concludes my report.
All right. Well, thank you, and Amanda. Again, outstanding work. We really appreciate it. You represented us very well, and it's cool that you're the one designing it. So keep sharing that information with us. The next agenda item is actually the Public Safety Subcommittee, or Law Enforcement Subcommittee, excuse me, which is chaired by Mr. Solberg, Chief Solberg, who is not present. Mr. Director, do you have any update? I see Ann shaking her head. I don't believe there's any update. So we'll move on to agenda item number, what did I miss? 7. Mr. Smith, Public Awareness Committee.
Nothing to add beyond Ann and Amanda's report.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 8. Is Leslie with us? It looked like she maybe was having some computer trouble.
Yeah,
I
I'm not
was.
sure.
I got disconnected several times, but I am here.
Okay, great, Leslie. Thanks.
Not much to report other than when the comment was made earlier about us seeing some increase in juvenile activity. We are literally just coordinating a meeting now with our division chief and some of our juvenile prosecutors, because there are task force cases that are starting to tick up with respect to juveniles that are staying in the juvenile system. And they've gotten multiples already on the Kia Hyundai theft rings that are happening. We also met yesterday for the first time in a few months with Captain Axlin and his team with the task force at DPS. And we are going to meet in the next few weeks with the MCAO legislative liaison to discuss the fact that there's a prolific run on tow truck drivers in Maricopa County. The regulations are just that, regulations, nothing codified in the criminal ARS yet. We're hoping yet, maybe soon to be, where the tow truck drivers are not in compliance with a variety of items, but the gist of it is that they are seeing vehicles that are red tagged. They are getting the vehicle towed without a proper phone call, without verifying ownership. We're trying to figure out where the calls are routing through in terms of how they're actually getting them. They're also not doing the required follow-up with the local law enforcement agency within an hour of them picking up these vehicles. They're miraculously winding up at a few different of the same tow yards, where they are then stripped of not only the catalytic converter, but other necessary parts, and then held for ransom for the insurance companies who ultimately track them down. So we just started a coordinated effort with that yesterday, and we're hopeful that when we meet with our legislative liaison that we can maybe get the ball rolling for legislation, tighter regulations, but also something criminally codified in Arizona to restrict not only the volume of tow trucks permitted per capita in various counties, similar to what the Captain Axlin discussed that they have back east, but also when they're not following these regulations and they're not doing what they're supposed to do, that we have some sort of criminal, even if it's a misdemeanor type of enforcement. Because right now, for all the regulation violations, we have one individual, a civilian with DPS, who's responsible for tracking and monitoring all of these violations. So obviously that, with the population in our county alone, that's just not a possibility. So that's our biggest hurdles here right now, are the Kia Hyundai issues, an increase in the juveniles with respect to those, and then the car theft and catalytic converter stripping by the tow truck drivers in concert with these yards and other people, but we're trying to figure out who that may be.
All right. Thank you, Leslie. I don't believe we have anyone else on the phone from any of the other counties. They had scheduling conflicts this meeting, so.
And I am going to give a quick update. Nick Hartman, who was, an attorney at my office, just a tremendous attorney, dedicated to the Auto Theft Authority, worked hand in hand with the task force. Regrettably, he left our office. He was happy, had nothing to do with all of you. He just has 2 young children, and he got hired at the city of Scottsdale. So instead of an hour-and-a-half one-way trip, he has a 12-minute one-way trip to the office. So he did ask me to pass on. He appreciates everything that AATA. He was my vertical prosecutor. He was actually one of the advocates to get us a second position. We finally got him a second position, and he left. So I just want to, let everybody know that he's doing well. He misses everybody. He loved his opportunity here. And if any of my colleagues have an opportunity, you can steal him back. I would highly, highly recommend him. He's a tremendous attorney who holds people accountable, is fair yet stern, stern yet fair. Did a great job. The other thing, just as an update, I think it's important, and I think people on this call would be interested in this. Our department, our county actually had to create an entire new bureau for vehicular crimes because of auto theft, because of felony DUI, and auto-related accidents. So this is something that, while we're seeing some of the thefts going down, we're still seeing the crazy reckless driving and other things that are going on, and just incredibly reckless numbers of felony DUIs, which is absolutely terrifying. So just sort of a general awareness, but we now have 2, or will have as soon as we get an acceptance from our second offeree, 2 full-time vertical prosecution prosecutors. And we're also focusing on some of those that have a prior auto theft conviction, because we're also finding a connection to a lot of violent crime. They used to call marijuana the gateway drug. Well, it seems like auto theft is the gateway to violence. At least we're seeing a lot of connections there. We're going to be exploring that. And if I get any information, I'll be sure to share it. Be sure to share it with the group.
Great. Thank you, Kent. And we echo that with working with Nick. It was such a pleasure to always work with him. He was always available for any last-minute stats I needed. So, yeah, he will be missed. But we look forward to your 2 new folks coming on.
Thank you. If there's nothing further, all right, we'll move on to Captain. Captain, can you give us an update?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the board. The following are stolen vehicles, drug seizures, and arrests for June 1st, 2023 through August 31st, 2023. The task force recovered 490 stolen vehicles valued at approximately $10,041,981 with 103 arrests. 42 of those 103 arrests had drug charges. The task force seized approximately 14 ounces of marijuana, 2.6 ounces of heroin, 11 pounds of cocaine, 1.4 pounds of methamphetamine, 3 pounds of fentanyl, and $113,683. The task force served 10 residential business structure search warrants, 2 vehicle warrants, and 22 electronic search warrants. The task force had 1,095 other agency assists. The task force seized 9 guns, 1 of which was stolen. Events and trends. On July 5th, task force detectives recovered and arrested a suspect in a VIN switch stolen 2020 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Further investigation led to a residential search warrant. Detectives seized approximately $82,000 in cash, 10 pounds of cocaine, 15 ounces of methamphetamine, 9 ounces of fentanyl, 1 pound of shrooms, 10 ounces of MDMA, 18 ounces of Xanax, 93 containers of THC, 3 handguns, 1 AR-style pistol, and 1 rifle. Suspect was booked on multiple felony charges. On July 18th and 19th, task force detectives instructed a basic auto theft class and conducted a saturation detail in Navajo County. Agencies who attended were Navajo County Sheriff's Office, Pine Top Lakeside PD, Sholo PD, DPS Highway Patrol, and Globe PD. The auto theft course included basic auto theft, catalytic converter theft, trailer identification, and current trends. Additionally, task force detectives conducted hands-on VIN identification for students at a local ATV, UTV dealership, and at a heavy equipment rental sales business. 2 business inspections were also conducted, resulting in 1 stolen vehicle located. Illegal tow truck operations have ramped up again. After the numerous salvage yard operations the task force conducted, they had slowed down. However, recently DPS has responded to numerous calls for vehicles stolen from the Phoenix metro highways. Vehicles have commonly been red tagged as abandoned and then removed without the owner's knowledge. These stolen vehicles are usually smaller pickups and passenger vehicles. The thefts have a common area of Interstate 10 from milepost 135 to 155 in both directions. In non-trooper lingo, that's 83rd Ave to 48th Street at all hours of the day and night. On August 28th, task force detectives conducted surveillance of a vehicle illegally removed from the side of I-10 by a tow truck. Detectives surveilled the two suspects load the vehicle and followed it to a salvage yard where the vehicle was offloaded. Two suspects were arrested and a business search warrant was served. Detectives recovered the illegally towed vehicle, seized the tow truck as evidence, recovered one stolen truck and parts from a stolen Chevy Silverado. Both suspects were arrested. Task force had a meeting with several other Valley agencies as well as the Maricopa County Juvenile Prosecutor's Office regarding the stolen Kias and Hyundais. These vehicles are mostly being joyridden and dumped. They're not going to Mexico or local chop shops. Many of the offenders are juveniles. A lot of the time, these vehicles are dumped prior to them being reported stolen. This makes apprehending the offenders in the act of the crime difficult. We are collecting video surveillance evidence to attempt to identify the criminal rings involved in these crimes. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Captain, thank you. Thank you for what your team does. All the drugs, everything, the cars you're recovering, the criminals you're holding accountable, you help keep our community safer. So I genuinely appreciate what you and your team do. Does anybody on this group have any questions for Captain? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
We are now at call to the public. Again, just as a quick reminder, any public member has the right to be heard. We have to limit your presentation to 5 minutes. Can't take action on it, but is there anybody from the public that would like to say something to the group? Okay, hearing nothing. I'm going to turn it over to the group. Is there any board member that has any current event, a matter of procedure, anything, a future event or future topic that they'd like to bring to anyone's attention at this time? Unless my speaker's not working, I hear nothing. Date and time for our next location will be Friday, November 17th. Same place, same channel. I won't be hosting anymore, though. It'll be back to Chief Solberg. I appreciate everybody attending. I appreciate everybody's patience, and I hope everybody stays safe and has a great rest of your day. Oh, looks like Ann has one thing. Sorry, Ann, go ahead.
But we need a motion to adjourn.
Oh, sorry.
Motion to adjourn.
We've got a motion. Is there a second?
Brad. Okay, great.
All right. Do we still need a vote on it, Ann?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Simple
Aye.
majority. That's enough. Everybody have a good one and take care.
Thank you. Thank you, Kent.
Bye.